Bardock the Believable needs to step up. But he actually needs to also figure out what to do. Hey guys, MasakoX here. Now after musing certain what-ifs, especially ones that involve Goku's parents, I thought it was best to go back to one of the more unorthodox what-ifs, and actually one of the most open what-ifs I've ever done, and it all came from the likes of what if Gine went with Goku to Earth. That was fairly by the books, but this one, involving Bardock, which a lot of you wanted, is one of those that I really needed to go back to, because honestly, it was very interesting. This is the tale of what might have happened if Bardock, now blessed with clairvoyance, was able to convince a lot of Saiyans to be able to join him and either resist against Frieza or somehow keep the Saiyan race alive. And that is, of course, what if Bardock convinced the Saiyans? But in this story, he's actually able to turn the minds of many of the Saiyans in that cantina. After getting them to move, albeit mostly escaping, the Saiyans actually managed to survive in a much better number than they would have done originally. Planet Vegeta was destroyed, and they all had to find a new home. In the last part, Bardock led the Saiyans to a mysterious planet on the outer regions of Frieza's sphere of influence, on a planet that was barely checked. It was no use to Frieza, so they just used it and colonized it, and now eventually we have a new Planet Vegeta. Eventually, the Saiyan Queen, which had previously been unknown in the original story, what I like to call Queen Cassava, arrives and helps Bardock try and figure out what the new Saiyan race can do. And naturally, this being the Saiyans, it involves something to do with fighting, and Bardock's plan has something to do with his offspring, Raditz. Using his future vision, he went off in pursuit of Raditz, found him, told him of his plan, and they were able to try and get Vegeta over to their side and his mother. But Vegeta being Vegeta, his pride was far too big to be able to be told about these kind of things. He was not convinced at all. Dejected, Raditz abandoned his prince and went off with his father. Nobody really noticed him in the Freeza Force because really, Raditz was just a dog's body. Now you may be thinking that new Planet Vegeta is now a lost cause, but having Raditz instead of Vegeta isn't all doom and gloom. Raditz can be useful. Raditz does have insider information, and because of his anonymity in regards to his power, he's able to just walk around and nobody bats an eyelid. He's kind of like the butler. The butler's always there, but nobody notices him. He knows all the security codes, how things are laid out, how the Freeza Force works, and where the strategic bases are. Thanks to this relative obscurity, Raditz realized that instead of just hanging around and continuing to be the dog's body, he could at least be more useful with his father and provide some key information and actually be somewhat important for once. Vegeta would rue the day that he chose to ignore Raditz's warnings. Queen Cassava thanks Raditz for his services, and together with his father and now the Queen, they now form a map to try and figure out their plan of attack. They now have a rough idea about how Frieza's forces are currently operating, because Bardock and Cassava have been out of the loop for a while, and figure out what they need to do next. They need to gather allies, gather supplies, and most importantly, form a new militia with other worlds. Now speaking of other worlds, this is where Raditz hatches a plan, something that he was planning on doing in the fullness of time, but feels like it could be useful now. Why doesn't he go and get his brother? Kakarot is currently on a seeding mission on the planet Earth. Now that Planet Vegeta is gone and the original mission is null and void because Frieza's just said, "Oh, forget that," they could just bring him back. He doesn't need to be there anymore. But Bardock then remembers what Kakarot was, and that really bad power level of 2? Can he really be that useful? I mean, how much could it have possibly increased in the decades it's been since he last saw him? That is if they can actually retrieve meaningful coordinates from their ever-aging database that they took like almost 20 years ago. It's getting a bit long in the tooth. But Raditz knows exactly how long it will take, because he knows the coordinates because, again, he was planning on doing it. It's going to take 2 years to get there and 2 years to get back. That means Raditz is going to be gone for 4 years. 4 years, Masako? Why is that? Remember, new Planet Vegeta is on the far end of Frieza's sphere of influence, kind of like how far Namek is, but even further. This is a pretty big gamble, and this is one that Bardock doesn't want to take, because Raditz needs to train. He is not strong enough on his own, and taking all this time to go somewhere and pick up a weakling brother who might need even more training is just a waste of time. The better plan is to try and make Raditz stronger and try and get Vegeta back by force. Cassava says that that is not an option. If they have to, she will bring back Vegeta herself. But the exact method is not something she wants to divulge, at least not yet. She grants Raditz his request and he then sets off to try and find his brother. The age is 759. Before he goes, Bardock gives his son a handshake and then a small hug. And this is when his future vision kicks in again. He sees Kakarot, his son, fully grown. Fortunately for Bardock, Kakarot has indeed got stronger. He also has allies that could help. Earth is not barren. It means that it might be prosperous. They might be able to have some help after all. Without wanting to try and change destiny, Bardock just wishes his son good luck. With a nod, Raditz gets in the pod and heads off for space. Bardock then reports to Cassava that Raditz is gone and is now off to Earth. Cassava says that that small Saiyan was indeed useful. He had some very valuable intel, but now that we have it, he's not useful. He's a waste of space. Can you imagine how weak he is? How is he going to help us? And this is when Bardock gets really, really angry, or at least he internalizes it. The only reason that she granted him this mission to be able to go off to Earth is that it got him out of the way. If Raditz comes back with an equally strong brother in tow, then, it's not so bad. If Raditz went and never came back, no skin off her nose. Bardock clenches his fist and is really wanting to punch Cassava in the face, but he remembers the vision that he saw with Raditz and realizes that, no, we don't need to do that. We know that we are right. Yeah, let's prove her wrong. 2 years pass, the age is 761. Raditz arrives on the planet Earth at the exact same time as he does in the original story, albeit with a slightly different motive. Well, actually, quite a different motive. Instead of recruiting Goku for the Freeza Force, he is recruiting his brother for new Planet Vegeta and their father. He still wants to try and get some jibes in the fact that his little brother screwed up his original mission, is that, at least I did the work. Oh, he's so dumb. Okay, in this situation, no, Earth being intact may not be a bad thing, but Raditz feels like he's still got the upper hand. Raditz encounters Piccolo like he does in the original story, and then senses Kakarot's greater power level. Goku can sense Raditz's power getting closer, and sure enough, the Big Saiyan arrives at Kame House in the exact same situation as we see at the beginning of Dragon Ball Z. When Raditz gets there, his mood is far less intimidating than the original. He is not there for conquest, he is genuinely there to ask for help. But also, there is no escaping the fact that this dude just came from space. He's an alien, so yeah, the majority of people at Kame House are going to be just a little bit scared. Raditz hails his brother and the two cautiously feel each other out, trying to gauge the situation and the personalities of the other. Goku inquires as to why his brother came here, and Raditz fills him in on all the things that happened with Planet Vegeta's destruction, the Saiyans' escape, new Planet Vegeta, Bardock's now being the head of the Saiyans, and Raditz's mission to come and get him. Naturally, Goku is having a hard time trying to process this. After all this time, he now realizes that he isn't human. His tail actually was part of the Saiyan race. It wasn't just a freak occurrence, it meant something. And most importantly, his father is alive. Raditz then spots little Gohan and asks, "Brother, how are you able to born another Saiyan without another Saiyan woman here?" Goku then explains that he didn't marry a Saiyan. Chi-Chi's human, and then Gohan's half Saiyan? Raditz finds this remarkable. A Saiyan hybrid? Why didn't we think of this? Raditz asks if they can bring Gohan along, so that means Bardock can see his grandson. Goku initially says no, but then Piccolo arrives to try and scope the Saiyan out for the second time. It seems the group's reached a bit of a stalemate because nothing's going on because no one trusts each other, but no one wants to do anything about it. And this is when Kami starts to interject, confirming Raditz's original story, or at least his motivation and where he came from. With Raditz proven right, something he absolutely loves, Goku is a little more receptive as to what his brother needs him to do. He would need to come to New Planet Vegeta and fight with him. That does indeed sound fun, but they need to do a bit of training first. Well, actually, a lot of training. Bulma then steps up, having now really read the situation that no one is going to die today, and asks Raditz how he even got here in the first place. Raditz then says that he got here by Saiyan Pod using Frieza technology. Bulma's now getting excited. Ooh, space technology! Ooh. And this is when Bulma asks whether she can take a look at the craft. Bulma takes a look at the pod and its propulsion system, and is absolutely mesmerized. This isn't too dissimilar to what she was working on with her father. She asks whether she can take the craft over to Capsule Corporation and try and work out a solution where they can actually build on this technology and somehow make it even better. If he's gonna want his brother to come along, and maybe other people, then they all can't fit in the same pod. Raditz then goes, "Ah, yes, that's indeed a good point. It was a little bit snug for me, to say the least." Agreeing to her request, Bulma does her magic, and this is when Goku and Raditz start to acquaint themselves by doing a little bit of light training, because now we realize this is how Saiyans bond, as it were. Within a few weeks, Dr. Breeze and Bulma have managed to come up with a prototype of a spaceship, the one that we actually see in the Namek saga, with Raditz's propulsion system. As we see with Android 16, Bulma is very good with reverse engineering. As they're doing this, Raditz just makes one request. Something that can replicate the gravity on Planet Vegeta, 10 times the gravity of this planet, because this could be really useful if Kakarot wants to try and do some meaningful training on their new planet. This is when the Saiyans ask, "Is there anyone else that wants to come along and actually join the fight? Or maybe do some training?" He does warn them that this will take at least 4 years to do to be able to go there and back, and this is when Bulma scoffs. 2 years? Yeah, well, that would be for your little crop, but this is a bigger crop with bigger engines. Based on my calculation, about 3 months. Bulma then just brushes his hair and just says, "Oh, not everyone on this planet is as brilliant as I am." With Raditz absolutely stunned, Tenshinhan and Yamcha offer to come along, with Krillin being very reluctant. The only reason he's going is because Goku's going, and, you know, he should really help out his best friend. As for Gohan, Chi-Chi only agrees for him to come along if he takes all of his studying material. Raditz, thinking that studying and training are basically the same thing, agrees wholeheartedly, and it's only when Gohan arrives with a whole bunch of books that Raditz realizes, oh, it's that kind of training. The ship takes off and the gang begin training proper. For the Z-Fighters, I say training, they're barely able to try and walk briskly in 10 times Earth gravity.
Oh my goodness, this is pathetic! How are you supposed to be able to help our cause if you can barely walk in this gravity? Oh, honestly, you're such weaklings.
Not gonna lie, Raditz is enjoying being the top dog here. This is the first time he's ever felt this way with other fighters, so he's gonna make the most of it. In time though, Goku is able to pull ahead of the others and get closer to Raditz's level, and that isn't to say that Raditz hasn't been training either. He's gotten stronger as well. Raditz really benefiting from the fact that he's got another Saiyan to train with, and the fact that they've managed to bring some senzu beans along for the ride. He's getting loads of training in these 3 months. When Gohan begins to show more of an interest, Goku feels like he needs to do some training with him before he unleashes Raditz upon him. 3 months later, the ship arrives with everyone looking surprised and somewhat confused. Their confusion dissipates when Raditz emerges from the aircraft, along with Kakarot. Bardock is extremely impressed that he actually came through with it, and Cassava is like, okay, not bad. But most importantly, Bardock is now reunited with his 2 sons, and it feels like Kakarot's gotten a lot stronger in the meantime. The two shake hands awkwardly before Goku hugs his dad. Now the clairvoyant didn't see this one coming. After Bardock's calmed down a little bit, he fills the 2 sons in about what they've managed to do in the meantime. They've managed to increase in numbers somewhat, gather some supplies, but Cassava's attempt to try and bring Vegeta the first time round was kind of a failure. Vegeta's zealous and stubbornness was just reached new levels that Cassava could not expect. Freeza truly poisoned his mind. The only way that Vegeta can be brought back here is if they bring him back by force. Cassava's going to get her hands dirty. And this is where Raditz and Kakarot will come in. And this is where we're going to leave things for now. So there we go. With Raditz proving everyone wrong and bringing Goku and friends back to new Planet Vegeta, the chances of bringing Vegeta back have now increased. The stage is set for this space opera to take on a whole new meaning. So what do you guys think? Do you think Goku and Bardock will get along meaningfully? Do you think Gohan will step up now knowing his origins? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next one, be sure to like and subscribe. Catch you later!